Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army.
I'm Judge Judy Scheinlin, and I'm a pretty good judge of character. Mike Bloomberg will be a great president. He's a job creator, a manager, an innovative mayor, and an impactful philanthropist. He'll unite and lead the country. Case closed.
That is an extremely rich person endorsing another extremely rich person for president of the United States. That's Judge Judy, whose net worth is about $400 million. So it absolutely makes sense that she would have class solidarity with one of the richest people in this country, Mike Bloomberg. I just laugh hysterically at someone who tweeted at me earlier this morning saying that Judge Judy is paid to yell at poor people. The reason I laugh hysterically because I never really thought about it like that. That's exactly what goes on every single day. And it's supported by poor people who are sitting at home, or poor people who are sitting at work, or sitting in the Jiffy Lube waiting to get their oil change. And we all just sit there and watch and laugh as she embarrasses and lambasts poor people. And she makes or she has a net worth of $400 million. It's really an endorsement that we can ignore, possibly ignore, right? Because you have to ask yourself the question, like, how many people are tied up? I mean, her show, she's making this kind of money for a reason. So many people watch her show. So many people watch this woman's show. So maybe her endorsement will mean a little something. But it's not going to mean enough for her, for Bloomberg to win. But it might just be enough for him to sandbag the entire nomination process or run it as a third party. But I digress. The point is that there is class solidarity. There is class warfare that's going on, and it's class warfare against the poor. And it's best exemplified by Judge Judy and her the framing of her show. The fact that this uber elite, uber wealthy individual sits in the seat of judgment against poor people and our shenanigans, right? All the little things that we do that we mess up on, and we argue and we fight amongst ourselves over $500 that somebody owes me. And then we have somebody who's got more money than we could ever dream of sit and berate us because we didn't, because we did send a text message to our ex-girlfriend. And that kind of silliness, that kind of pettiness has become entertainment. All of that to say that it absolutely makes sense that a person who sits in the seat of judgment against poor people would support Michael Bloomberg for president. Here's a clip of her on The View. I think it has been misinterpreted by some people, but it does sound like she's saying that Michael Bloomberg is second to the president in terms of his experience. Take a listen in, and then we'll break it apart.
Because I don't think this country needs a revolution. I think it's a very young country. It's 250 years old. In the scheme of things, that's a baby.
Right.
And when I looked at the field of 2020 candidates, for one reason or another, although I'm sure they're all very nice people, there was no other voice for me other than a voice of someone who has experience in governance, second only to the President of the United States, because New York City has the most diverse population of any place else in the United States of America, except the United States of America. And you all are New Yorkers, so you sort of remember there was a good feeling. It was a feeling that things were run effectively and efficiently during his 12 years as mayor.
Now, the part that I'm most interested in is the part about him being mayor for 12 years and this bit about nostalgia and how they long for the days of Michael Bloomberg in the city of New York. Now, just to parse what she said about the presidency, it wasn't said well. What she was trying to say, not that I'm interested in giving people the benefit of the doubt, because I do think giving people the benefit of the doubt is something that is often not afforded us, which represents the asymmetrical fight that I always talk about. But I'm being generous this morning, giving Judge Judy the benefit of the doubt. What she was saying is that being the mayor of New York gives you a governance experience that is only second to being the president of the United States, because of the diversity, the size of New York, blah, 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 blah. But it is kind of funny that she did make it seem like, and you know what? Guess who isn't going to give her the benefit of the doubt? Donald Trump. Donald Trump is going to take it exactly the way she said it, which is Michael Bloomberg's experience is second to mine. The person who endorsed them even said it. But putting that aside, that low-hanging fruit aside, this man, and if I remember correctly, he had the charter of the city changed so that he could become mayor of New York for a third term. This is the power of money, right? This is the power of money. And of course, what rich people want more than anything else. And I think middle class people, we suffer from it as well. But particularly rich people, what they want is for everyone to just be quiet while they get money. Middle class people, we just want stability, right? We do want stability, and we do want more than what this system gives us. But sometimes those desires can overlap, and middle class people don't realize that that their silence about the system and their desire to have peace. And when I say peace, I mean their desire to not want to shake up the system, to not want a revolution, Bernie Sanders style revolution, right? Not Marxist-Leninist style revolution. I just want to be clear. Sometimes as middle class people, and even some working class people, we become complicit with the desires of the uber elite because there's an overlap. There's an overlap for different reasons. Rich people want you to be quiet and wanted to have that. They want to go back to that longing. They want to go back to that nostalgia of the peaceful time when Mike Bloomberg was mayor of New York for 12 years, and everyone just got along and they were able to get rich, because that's probably the time when Judge Judy's wealth increased exponentially. And so sometimes we become this desire for peace and no one shaking up the system, fear of changing the system, fear of protest, fear of people taking to the streets. And quite frankly, a time when the only thing that really is important is the fact that you can get home in time to watch your shows. To watch shows like Judge Judy, so long as things aren't shaken up. That's the biggest hindrance, right? What Judge Judy was describing, that nostalgia, that's the biggest hindrance to us changing things, because change is terrifying. Change is terrifying, and most people, at the end of the day, we have been conditioned to the point that all we really want to do is to escape to our preferred form of escapism, which is inclusive of Judge Judy, because she's obscenely wealthy based on her show that does nothing but eviscerate poor people. Do you see how this is one big circular cluster F of causality? Like, it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? We're just in this infinite loop. This infinite loop of being satisfied and pacified, rather. We're being pacified with entertainment. And now we have someone who we have elevated because we watch her so much. And when I say we, I'm not talking about me, but I could be talking about my mother because she watches her every day. But we, the poor working class, we created Judge Judy. And she sits on her seat of judgment and scorn, shouting at poor people, shouting at us. And we love that shit. And we just watch it. And she becomes worth $400 million. And now she endorses someone who essentially is saying to all of us, listen, everybody just be quiet. We just want to get rid of the loud man in the White House, but we don't really want to do anything to change your material condition. That's what we're up against.
Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
Come on. Good morning to everyone. It's time for our patron party. Special welcome to all of our newest patrons. Welcome aboard, Sir Reginald of Highland. That's a hell of a name. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. Very special welcome to James Hardiman. Now, James, for a quick second there, when I saw your name, I'm like, holy crap. James Harden of the Houston Rockets listens to my show and is a patron. But this is even better because it's not James Harden, it's James Hardiman, who's much cooler anyway. So welcome aboard. Thank you so much for becoming a patron. You too can become a part of this prestigious and prodigious patron family by going to www.patreon.com/the BPD show and joining now. Okay, let's shift gears pretty hard here. Take a listen to Nikki Haley as she describes her view on the assassination of Qasim Sulemani.
You don't see anyone standing up for Iran. You're not hearing any of the Gulf members. You're not hearing China. You're not hearing Russia. The only ones that are mourning the loss of Soleimani are our Democrat leadership and our Democrat presidential candidates. No one else in the world, because they knew that this man had evil veins. They knew what he was capable of, and they saw the destruction and the lives lost based from his hands.
Okay, so here's an interesting thing that happened last night. I just wanted to start the segment with that clip because, one, it's never enough. And I think Democrats need to hear this message every single day for the rest of their lives. Nothing they do will ever be enough for Republicans. And this is what I mean specifically. Democrats have been prevaricating around the assassination of this man. There's only one person, basically, I'm pretty confident one presidential candidate only has been the one who called and condemned this, who called out the entire country and condemned this action, and that's Bernie Sanders. All of the rest of them have been prevaricating, saying, yes, Soleimani was an evil man. He has blood on his hands. And, but the action taken by the president is unwarranted and blah, 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 because of authorization to use of military force, blah, blah. So even in your prevarications, even in your attempting to cover your butts and say, yeah, he was a bad guy. It's never enough for Republicans, so stop doing it. Just call things for what they are. This was a general in another army that we look at as a rival, yes, but the assassination was 100% unconstitutional. It was against international law. It was an assassination. I mean, at least we're using the right word here. Call it for what it was, and also go beneath the surface, because the reality is that no matter what, we are conditioned as a society, as people, as human beings, to always view our enemies as the devil and view our enemies as people who are barbaric, who need to be exterminated. And yet we look at Iran and say, oh, how dare they look at the United States and say death to America? Well, bitch, we say death, bomb, 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 bomb Iran. We stand in the position on the global stage with the ability and the propensity to actually destroy Iran. But yet we're shocked when they chant death to America. Are we shocked when they now have put a $80 million bounty on the head of Donald Trump? I mean, don't get me wrong, that's wild. I am a little I'm like, wow, Iran is not playing. I mean, that's some next level stuff right there. But this, we can't keep equivocating. We can't. We have to call it for what it is, especially because the international community is calling it for what it is, Nikki Haley. Benjamin Netanyahu, the outgoing prime minister of Israel, said this. He said, quote, "The assassination of Soleimani isn't an Israeli event, but an American event. We were not involved and should not be dragged into it." Now, listen, for the relationship that America has with the right-wing government of Israel, that's a mighty damning condemnation. OK, and there's plenty of international actors on the stage who are in states and nations who are calling out the United States for this assassination. Hell, even people within the United States are calling out people in the military industrial complex, a few of them, while the rest of them are salivating at the opportunity to get into another war so that they can make $2 trillion more dollars. But the point is this. The point is that while they're trying to make this an issue of who's mourning what America has labeled as a bad guy, the reality is Donald Trump has positioned our country, has alienated, has isolated our country on the international stage, where now everyone is looking at America as the barbaric nation that we are. See, you know what patriotism really is? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't really to give a damn about the word patriotism or any real sense of nationalism, because it's all nothing but tools of propaganda and manipulation to get what the elite in your society want. But if you ask me what real patriotism is, it's questioning your country. It's instead of looking at your enemies, at the people who your country is telling you is your enemy, instead of looking at them as barbarians, look at all the crap that we're doing. Look at all the things that we're doing. You're worried about whether or not someone is mourning. Most people in America didn't even know who Suleimani actually was. So no one has an actual emotional attachment to this guy. What we're mourning is the fact that we live in a country that is so barbaric that we will break every international law. We will break all of our own laws, and we would just rain hellfire down from the sky when no one is looking, no one is expecting it, and then just go on and change the channel to Judge Judy. That's what's worthy of mourning. The fact that our country is soulless, that we could drop $2 trillion on war, but won't think about spending a dime on taking care of our own people. We take food out of the mouths of our own citizens. We cut welfare. We cut food stamps. We cut Social Security, or we're trying to cut Social Security. We're trying to cut Medicare. We won't expand Medicaid. We have people who are dying because they can't go to the hospital in our own country, and yet we spend $2 trillion to be able to blow all of these black and brown nations out of just blow them into oblivion. That's what we have to mourn. Who's really the barbarians on the stage? Yeah. All right. One of my favorite memes that is so true. Picture is worth 1,000 words, but I have to give you at least 500 words to describe the meme. It is of the Avengers at the top, and at the bottom they juxtapose the Empire, Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, and the Stormtroopers. And on the top with the Avengers, you have Iron Man and Thor and Captain America standing and looking all noble, fighting the good fight for truth, justice, and the American way. Well, I know that's Superman, but you know. That's how they're looking off in the gaze, staring off into the distance, so hopeful and so idealistic. And at the top of it, it says, this is how America sees itself. We see ourselves as the heroes of the story. And at the bottom, it says, well, this is how the rest of the world sees America, as the brutal empire. I think that meme is so sad, but so true. And if that meme is true, then our very own Senator Palpatine comes in no other person, no better person than Senator Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, who has had a long-term strategy, setting aside the fact that he looks like Senator Palpatine, Emperor Palpatine. We'll set that aside for a moment. His machiavellian machinations have spanned about 20 years. 20 years he's been working on one plan, and he is in his final stage of executing that plan. And he has shown that there's no lengths that he will not go. There's no law that he won't violate. There's no norm, no institution that he won't completely ignore for the purposes of achieving his goal. The same guy who said that he wants to make President Obama a one-term president. His sole goal was to make President Obama a one-term president. And to that end, he was willing to attack all of his own ideas, all of the conservative ideas. That Senator Palpatine, Mitch McConnell, that guy got up last night, and this is what he said about the assassination of Sulemani and the response here in the United States. Take a listen in.
Unfortunately, in this toxic political environment, some of our colleagues rushed to blame our own government before even knowing the facts, rushed to split hairs about intelligence before being briefed on it, and rushed to downplay Soleimani's evil while presenting our own president as the villain.
Well, Mitch McConnell, he is the villain, and you are his henchman. But in fact, you're actually the brain behind the operation. I'm going to play his this 4 minutes of his speech, and I'm going to give commentary in between because there's so much here. The first thing I have to say is this solemn tone that he has, right? This solemn tone is a tool of propaganda itself. Right. He's presenting himself as distinguished, as civil, as the person who's really concerned about the state that we're in and this hyper partisan condition that this country is in. And what he's not saying to you is the fact that he has been one of the key architects in the demise of bipartisanship and creating this hyper-partisan America that we are in. But yet he stands there with this dignified, solemn tone to convey a sense of sincerity when underneath he is literally giggling to himself because his master plan is in play, giggling to himself because he knows that he is blaming on us. He is projecting on us that which he is preeminently guilty of. Let's continue.
One of our distinguished colleagues made a public statement that rightly called Soleimani a murderer, and then amazingly walked that message back when the far left objected to the factual statement. Since then, I believe all her criticism is directed at our own president.
As it should be.
The same senator has harshly criticized our own president for getting tough. Ludicrously, he and others on the left have accused the administration of committing an illegal act and equated the removal of this terrorist leader with a foreign power assassination of our own Secretary of Defense.
This is literally what it was, Mitch McConnell. Literally. And he knows this, right? I don't say this. I don't say this to correct him as though pointing this out to him would change anything. He knows without a shadow of a doubt that the assassination of General Qasim Sulemani is equivalent to assassinating one of our top generals. Iran is a sovereign nation. Iran is a sovereign nation. Period. And the assassination of one of their generals is equivalent to assassinating one of our generals. He knows this, but he's playing the game. He's playing the propagandistic game of labeling this guy as a terrorist. Because if you label them as a terrorist, then everything is okay. All is fair. We can do anything we want. But in fact, we did break international law. In fact, we did ignore our own domestic laws. And in fact, we did assassinate the general of a sovereign nation. And Senator Palpatine, Mitch McConnell, knows that. But what he's doing is his job in ensuring that there is never any resistance from within the Republican Party, because above anything else, Donald Trump is executing his agenda. Donald Trump is executing Mitch McConnell's agenda. And so he does not care what this president does, so long as he gets the job done.
Well, here's what one expert had to say about it. Jay Johnson, President Obama's own former Pentagon General Counsel and Secretary of Homeland Security. Here's what he said. If you believe everything that our government is saying about General Soleimani, he was a lawful military objective, and the president, under his constitutional authority as commander-in-chief, had ample domestic legal authority to take him out without an additional congressional authorization. Whether he was a terrorist or a general in a military force that was engaged in armed attacks against our people, he was a lawful military objective. That's the former Secretary of Homeland Security in the Obama administration.
And yet, hilariously, he expects. See what? This is the problem. This is the core problem. And this is where you can't lay everything at the feet of the Republicans. It's because the Obama administration, along with every Democratic administration since the inception of the military-industrial complex, both parties have been complicit in this war machine. So, of course, you're going to be able to get a litany of people from the Obama administration who will agree with this because it gives us the war that we need to spend $2 trillion more and to enrich those individuals. So now this is a part in the story where we can't blame the Republicans, because this is 100% the responsibility of both parties. The expansion of the executive power, the expansion of the war-making powers of the president to not be, to not have to answer or not to have any accountability to Congress. This has happened under the watch of both parties. And the Democrats thought that they would just always have a benevolent emperor in the White House. They did not calculate that they would get someone as malevolent as Donald Trump.
Look, the Senate is supposed to be the chamber where overheated partisan passions give way to sober judgment. Can we not at least wait until we know the facts? Can we not maintain a shred, just a shred, of national unity for 5 minutes? For 5 minutes before deepening the partisan trenches. Must Democrats' distaste for this president dominate every thought they express and every decision they make? Is that really the seriousness that this situation deserves?
Mitch McConnell, the king of hyperpartisanship, the king of political propaganda and machinations, machiavellian machinations, is now calling for unity? Mitch McConnell? You know what this reminds me of?
No more Optimus Prime! Grant me mercy, I beg of you! You, who are without mercy, now plead for it? I thought you were made of sterner stuff.
That's exactly what's happening in this clip. Precisely what's happening in this clip, if anybody is as old as I am and they remember the 1986 Transformers movie. In order to gain a tactical advantage, someone as malevolent as Megatron, as Mitch McConnell, will feign as though what they want is mercy, what they want is unity. And as soon as you blink and give them an inch and a moment of consideration, they strike a death blow to your entire agenda, to everything that you stand for, everything that you're fighting for. Mitch McConnell has been fighting to divide this country for his political and economic gain and for the political and economic gain of the richest people in this country. He has a hyper-conservative agenda that is precisely who he is. He knows nothing else. His entire speech on that floor last night was nothing more than to get a tactical advantage over the Democrats. More importantly, over anyone who opposes the assassination of the general of a sovereign nation. That's what he's doing. So if that meme is accurate and the United States of America, and we're not the Avengers, we're not the noble warriors going across the globe saving everyone from Hydra, but in reality, we are the empire, then Mitch McConnell is none other than Emperor Palpatine, who has been laying in wait for generations, laying there with his plan all along. And now he has the perfect vessel to execute his plan in none other than Donald Trump. So yesterday, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez caused an uproar because she said that in any other country, Joe Biden and she would not be in the same party, but in America, we are. And every possible misinterpretation, intentional misinterpretation of this has gone forth. But my favorite comes from, I can't call him a friend, but we're friendly, Marcus Johnson. Back in 2016, he and I used to go at it on a regular basis about Bernie Sanders versus whoever else. I guess it was Hillary at the time. And this is his interpretation of it. He says AOC says she wouldn't be in the same party as Biden in any other country. Since Biden gets a majority of black voters, what is AOC really saying? Her? Huh? Marcus, really? So I responded, I said, bro, come on, man. You know, this isn't in good faith. And his response to me was, I don't understand the good faith, bad faith stuff. My claim is simple. Bernie, Warren, AOC have struggled. Oh, he threw Warren in this as well. Oh, Snap. Let me read it again. He said, quote, my claim is simple. Bernie, Warren, AOC have struggled mightily with black voters, and Biden, Clinton, Obama have won polled majorities. Black voters, the poorest demo in America, wouldn't be in an AOC style party. My friend. You obviously don't know what the hell you're talking. Actually, no, you do. Because I have to understand, I have to look at this through the same lens that I just looked through for Senator Palpatine. This is all intentional. This is intentional. Obviously, if he's not supporting Warren, he must be supporting Biden. And obviously, the entire tweet, the entire conversation is set up to prop up the support that Joe Biden has from the African-American community, particularly older African-Americans who look at him with the same sense of nostalgia that Judge Judy looks at Mike Bloomberg when he was governor or mayor of New York for 12 years. It's the longing for a more sensible, more reasonable time, when in reality, those times were no more reasonable. But coming back, Joe Biden gets the benefit of hiding behind the fact that he hung out with a black person for 8 years. That's the only reason why the African-American vote of people over 50 go with Joe Biden. The African-American vote, the black vote, the diverse vote of everyone who's younger than a boomer goes to none other than Bernie Sanders. So AOC's statement is quite factual. In the UK, what we have as one party. In the United States is really two different parties. In the UK, it's the Labour Party and it's the Lib Dem Party. The Lib Dems are most analogous to the Democratic Party here in the United States, right? So there's two different parties there, and that happens across the globe. That's because we are forced into a two-party system. And that's the essence of what AOC is saying. But it's hilarious that it's being taken so out of context, but it's being done so intentionally. It's being done so because that is the political strategy that will always be used. People will always take your statements out of context. They will manipulate your statement no matter what. They will not take your statement in good faith, but they will expect that you take everything that they say in good faith. That is the number. If I can't teach you, if I can't learn you nothing, if I can't help you understand anything else, realize that in life, in relationships, in politics, in everything, people will take your statement out of context because it benefits them to do so. And then they will hold you to the strictest definition of every word of what they say. That is one of the most powerful political tools. That is one of the most manipulative tools in relationships. That is what is being done to us. It's gaslighting, and it is being done on a magnificent scale across the globe by everyone. Everybody does it. So you just have to be able to recognize game. That's where I want to stop for today, folks. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.